chapter of English. So today onwards we are going to start your main lessons for English subject. So the first chapter is imagination. So imagination is a poem written by George Bernard Shaw. You know who is George Bernard Shaw? He was an Irish writer. Irish writer means a writer from Ireland. So he was very oftenly he used to write plays, dramas, all these types of short stories, essays, and he also was a poet too. And he was very famous among English writers, very a renowned famous English writer in the history of English literature. Plus, he won a Nobel Prize for literature, and all his work was very poetic, lyric work he had. And here the poem Imagination is telling about the childhood memories he had. A childhood memory, or not a childhood memory, lot of childhood memories he had. That is, he describes through the lines imagination. So before we start the lessons, you know your book name, English book name. I already once introduced to you the name of the book, English a Ladder. Okay. So a book by Falcon Series. So this is your main course book. So you have around 7 units. You have 7 units total in this book, and today we are going to see the first chapter. And next day onwards, it is not mandatory that we will be seeing the chapter in the chronological order. I will be selecting few chapters inside this textbook, which is short stories and short poems. Okay, so like that only we will move forward. When we see a brief introduction for this poem, Imagination, just recall the things we were doing in our childhood. You just recall the maybe some small games, or the games which we used to play when we were childhood, right? So the same thing happening to the George Bernard Shaw also. Actually, he writes about that. He speaks about his younger imagination or childhood imagination, or how he used to play the games. All these things he is going to write. He already wrote in this poem Imagination. Okay, so maybe the things are much more cliches. Cliches. Have you heard the word cliches? Cliches means something very common that is used many times. Still, it is using that type of games we had, right? He also had playing. He used to play pirates. And you know what is pirates? The robbers or thief in the sea. Pirates. That type of games he used to play, and some other plays and another game like cowboy. The American cowboy play here, like the game he used to play. So all these things are very popular among the European children. Okay, European children. So here also very common. But nowadays everyone is playing PUBG, right? So he's not saying about that type of play. Which more included imaginations thing, right? And as a child, he was so much into the imagination. When we were childhood, we were thinking like we were dreaming about we had some superheroes when we were childhood, like Shaktiman and all. Now you had like Spider-Man, Superman, and so like that he was in his childhood. He was imagining, or he had a lot of imaginations about like that type of superheroes, some science fiction stories, or the African traveler, all these types of. So all this, some hints I given before starting the poem Imagination. So we will see more about that. So let's begin the poem. I used to play at pirates and sail the 7 seas. Then I was a cowboy. These simple things did me please. I had a vivid imagination Adventure was always on my mind. I discovered the joys of reading and escaped the daily grind. So, here in the first stanza, we have seen that he used to play pirates. Piracy, I have already mentioned what you mean by pirates. See, he used to play the game like pirates with another children or his friends, right? So all these things is our childhood practices or daily routine of the childhood. And then it was a cowboy, so he used to play the American cowboy things with his friends. And moving to the next stanza, he had a vivid imagination. Vivid imagination means a variety of imagination, not single thing at a time. He had the thought, the multiple thought was coming to his mind, and he had a multiple type of imagination. Adventure was always on his mind. Adventure was always in his mind. He want to go for any like adventure thing, so it was always in his mind. And how he used to burn his free time, so from get rid of all the boring time. So think like from his childhood itself he started reading. So reading made him more into the day. Okay, he was spending more of the day by reading the varieties of novels he had with him. So grin, you know the word grin here. Grin means is having boring routine work every day. These days we are not having schools because of lockdown. Every day we most probably will be having the same routine. So when George Bernard Shaw had this daily routine, boring of this daily routine, what he did that by reading the books, he get rid of that thing, the boring thing. Okay, so from very childhood he started reading the book. So that helped him. Actually, we can think that which helped him. The reading helped him to be a more successful laureate, a poetic laureate in the future times of his life. In the following stanza, he had a lot imagination. So we will see the imaginations which he had in the stanzas. So he himself write. This is the poem written in the first person. Okay, he just mentioning himself. So once I lived with the Eskimos in the land of ice and snow. When hunting and fishing, my fantasy was all aglow. So here you know that Eskimos, you know that igloo type thing, that a home or just hunt type thing in the ice. So you know that in the snow, a house built by snow. So when he now going forward, he's having the imagination where he till where he go to the imagination. So all these things we can see here. So he was living in igloo or Eskimos, and he had after that he gone for hunting and fishing. His childhood memory or the imagination he was having that he one day he's going for hunting animals, and another day he go for fishing, and all this fantasy. This is all this fantasy, right? All the fantasy type thing, hunting, fishing. When he was actually this is not fantasy, but for a child it is a fantasy. All the imagination. Fantasy means the imagination for a child. And all this fantasy was aglow for him. Aglow means in the sense he was so much bright. He was happy for all these things. Okay. So moving to the next stanza. I read a book of Jules Verne and went off to the moon. It was just to take a look, and then it was time to return. So when we were discussing, he used to read much and more books when he was in his childhood time, right? So here one science fiction novelist, his name is Jules Verne. So when he was young, George Bernard Shaw, he was young, and at that time he used to read the book of this man, Jules Verne. He's a science fiction novelist. So and went to the moon. It was just to take a look, and then it was time to return. So the imagination gone like this. After reading the book, the George is going to a moon and he's just visiting the moon there, and after that he is coming back to the earth. Very simple, very cute. Okay, so next one. I spent time in the forest of Africa with Dr. Livingston as my guide. Then off again to America with Huckleberry Finn I did hide. So, you know one of the famous traveler, his name is Dr. Livingston. He visited entire Africa and he wrote the book. Okay, Dr. Livingston. So that is why here the George Bernard Shaw is telling that after reading the book of Dr. Livingston, George Bernard Shaw feels like that he gone to everywhere in the Africa. He feels like he gone everywhere in the Africa. And he is after visiting Africa, he is back off to America with Huckleberry Finn I did hide. So you know Mark Twain, one of the famous novelists, Mark Twain, and one of his very great story among among the children of your age, the story The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. That is one of the good story or good novel, and a epitome of a adventurous boy. That boy is Huckleberry Finn. So he is Huckleberry Finn going around the world, and he is having much and more adventure. So the book George Bernard Shaw read, and he is also like Huckleberry Finn. He is imagining the fantasy thing is coming to his mind, and he is also just moving around the world like a Huckleberry Finn. Okay, so in my world of fantasy and imagination, I performed such wonderful deeds, a hero of all nations. I was one of that did succeed. So after when we have imagination and we express that imagination to maybe to our parents or to our friends, right? So we will say that with some pure masalas, we will put all these masalas and we make the story like a great story, right? We had gone to this place, or we had a dream like this. So we used to say it like that. So here George Bernard Shaw also, like, he used to tell the stories to his friends, and he introduced himself as the hero of that nation. That much interest he had with these stories or all this fantasy and imagination, he popped up. Then I grew up my childish world at an end. I had become serious. It nearly drove me around the bend. I still do like the mysterious. This is a message I'm trying to send. So what happened? George Bernard Shaw grew up. So from that childhood he gone to youngster and to next level of his age. So everything, the imagination thing, suddenly it was going from him, right? When we are childhood, at the time of childhood we had more imagination, but after that we became more serious and mature enough to know the world, to know the things. So same thing happened to the George Bernard Shaw also, and I still do like mysterious. This is the message I'm trying to send. But still, even he was grown up, he tried to, or he loved to do these mysterious things which he was doing at his younger ages or when he was in childhood. So this is about the poem, and I can say this is one of the best poem for you guys to just think about your childhood and now how you are performing, or how you are behaving to the parents, to your friends, to your teachers, and all these things. When your all this cuteness has somehow gone, Like when you're a younger age, or when you're in your lower sections, you had a cuteness to tell the things to the parents, to tell the things to the openness to the parents, openness to the teachers, all these things. So you just reconcile yourself. Is it that thing still with you, or it is gone? So this is about the poem, the imagination. So in the younger ages, we had many imagination, fantasies, which helped us to be most happy or most powerful person in the world. But later we are just moving around, and we had this mobile, all we shrink into that small space. We are not seeing the people outside the mobile. So all this happening, right? So here in this time also, we are into our, for the safety, we are into lockdown. We are into a small group of people. We are not seeing much or more people outside. So it's all about nature, right? Respect the nature. It's a give and take policies. So it's just about out of the imagination. I'm just saying to you. So the poem Imagination by George Bernard Shaw. It's all about the poem. The childhood. When we are in childhood, we had many memories, lot more fantasies we had. But now, just think about yourself. Just reconcile yourself. What we are now at present. So that's about the poem. The first chapter, Imagination. Unit first chapter, Imagination. Okay. So I hope everyone out there is doing very fine. All 8th standard students, and I hope all are fine. Okay. Have a great week ahead. Thank you so much.